K3SAD. Let me make sure I got this one. Okay, could the station that was doubling with LAV come back?
Was I being jammed?
Well, I'm going to assume it wasn't nefarious in nature. Any other comments about the Aurora or the weekend?
WW80?
Go ahead.
I don't think they were Aurora contacts, but all this solar activity, there has been a couple of good 6-meter band openings, and did manage to get about 80 contacts on 6 meters all over the country.
Phone or CW?
Some CW and mostly FT8.
Right on. Anybody else with anything else on this topic? Okay, this is K3SAD, net control for tonight's TechNet. Next up, we got Dave, K0HAK. Go with your topic.
Thanks, George. I'll just kind of set the table here. I've got the ICOM AH4 with just a random wire antenna on it hooked up to my ICOM 7300. Recently, though, I installed a little switch box so that I could switch over to a dipole antenna. But I'm just wondering if anybody has played with building some kind of a box that turns off or disconnects the AH4 so that I don't have to unplug the Molex connector from the back of the radio before I try and tune my 10-meter antenna. If anybody has any plans or anything like that, any tips or advice on that, that would be appreciated. Go ahead.
Yeah, LEI.
Go ahead, Chet.
Gosh, I had it off the top of my head and I forgot it, but in one of the recent QSTs there was a relay, remote relay switching system for antennas, and it's just the last couple of months it was in there, and if you could run that down. Wait a minute, maybe I can go get it. See. Okay, LEI. Bye for a minute.
Any other takers while we wait for Chad to come back?
Kilo Mike 6, Victor Alpha Yankee. I don't understand. I've got 7300. Goes into a four-way switch out to my antennas. I can always switch between antennas. So I don't understand why he's having a problem. There must be something with that antenna that I'm not grasping.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've got a switch box. One of them hooks up to my, routes out to the AH4, and then another one just goes to a little 10-meter dipole. But I was under the impression that when I hit the tuner, if I'm on the 10-meter dipole and I hit the tuner button, that the AH4 external tuner is still trying to tune my wire antenna because it doesn't know any difference. And I could be wrong. It would be awesome if I was, but that's just kind of how I thought it worked. Go ahead.
Okay, Roger. I'm remembering that AH10. That's a nice antenna. That mounts out at the antenna, and you're having a problem with it trying to tune when you're trying to use other stuff. I get you. You want to disconnect out there. Yeah, I believe there is something available. I can't recall it off my hand. Sorry, guys. KM6 VAY late check-in.
Yeah, Whiskey Zero LEI back.
Go ahead, LEI.
The switching network is in March of QST, and he's using it a little bit different, but basically it's just an antenna switching setup, remote, and so you put it in a little box and set it out there and go zip, zip. It's not too complicated. Go.
Oh, let me see if I have this. Yeah, so I think I understand what that system is. So basically you're still using that external tuner, but switching between antennas remotely. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's the basics of it, and it's got various coax connectors on it, and you could use the basic concept and set up anything you wanted with it, basically.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I might look into that, but right now those antennas are in two different sections of my yard. But that's an interesting idea, and I think I'm going to try and find that article. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm going to keep doing some research on this and see if there's a way to do this. I'm just looking for some kind of a switch or something that I can toggle, just right here in the shack to just effectively disconnect the control wires from the external tuner out there. But yeah, if I find anything, I'm gonna share it with the net if I find anything. So this is K0HAK and back to net.
MLG.
K3SAD net control for tonight's TechNet. Go ahead, MLG.
Oh, Dave, let me get this straight. You have an antenna switch box next to the radio, and you're either going to go to your wire with the tuner or you're going to go to a 10-meter dipole. Is that correct?
Yep, that's exactly right.
All right, well then, not to be a smart aleck, but if it's a 10-meter dipole, why are you even tuning it? You've already switched it with the switch box, your antenna switch box. You're on a resonant 10-meter antenna. There's no need to tune the 10-meter wire that your inverted V that you have.
I think I'm just in the habit of tuning everything just for a match, but you might be right. Maybe if it is resonant, I don't even need to worry about it.
Yeah, I do this constantly. I have a tuner in line with my wire, but I also have a 10 through 12 meter vertical, and when I bypass the wire, basically bypass the tuner and go to antenna 2, which instead of an antenna switch, the tuner has it built in. Well, I don't tune that. I already know it's resonant. That's what it was for. I would put an SWR meter in line with your 10 meter inverted V, check your swirls, and if they're acceptable, take the meter out or leave it in, whatever you want to do. And when you move your switch box over to 10, there's no need to tune it. It's already resonant.
Yeah, you're probably right. I may just be overthinking this.
Keep it simple, silly. K0MLG.
All right, I'm going to go play with it, K0HAK.
This is K3SAD. There's moments like these where I'm sitting there trying to picture what's going on, and I need to see it in the flesh because I'm having a really hard time following. Sorry, guys.
I'll get my big chief tablet out and some crayons, draw you a picture, and text it to you.
Fantastic. I'll take you up on that. Anybody else have any topics for tonight's TechNet?
Okay, I'll jump in there, VAY. Hey, at what point with this solar activity and solar storms, at what point do you guys not turn your radios on? I've been seeing SPS, or the, that ratio on QRZ over 200, is that right? Does that mean don't turn your radio on? Does anybody have any comments on when we should not turn our radios on because we're getting so much activity?
I'll hazard a guess on this one. I was looking at Facebook over the weekend, and people were talking back and forth about it, and the general consensus was that I saw was that no special precaution was required. There was an incident back in 1859 or something where telegraph machines were blowing up and stuff like that. The way I thought of it was, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but basically with the telegraph you've got 500 miles of antenna sticking out there that's catching all that garbage and sending it into the machine, whereas our stuff is much smaller, so we didn't need to worry so much about it. So that would be my input on that. This is K3SAD looking for a second opinion.
W0ASP comment.
With your comment.
What you're talking about was called the infamous Carrington event, in which, in fact, telegraph stations did, in fact, start on fire. And I've been giving that a lot of consideration lately. And then I kind of realized in the early days of telegraph, they used earth ground as the return. And they didn't use twisted pairs as like modern telecommunications does. And I think when they strung the long telegraph wires and used the earth as a return, they were setting up a giant loop antenna that could catch all these magnetic disturbances. And I think that event, not only was it magnificent in its size as a solar event, the technology at the time was not at all prepared for it. W0ASP, back to that.
VAY, let me jump in there. Yeah, everybody knows about the Carrington event. No, I was on 40 over the weekend, and it was blowing up everywhere. Everyone was kind of referring to, I didn't turn my radio on until today because of this event, that event. We were talking about the different solar factors that we all refer to on QRZ. And anyway, I was just wondering, because just like everybody else, I get on and play, I turn my floor down, I turn my RF. Yeah, I've been playing with it. Of course, Carrington's a much larger event, and if that happens, keep your radios off, guys. I'm talking about right now is what I was wondering, if anybody had any special tricks. These 7300s are great to play with. Turn this down and making sure I don't touch preamp. I wander around with that. I go down to these different bands. I'm looking. You guys are doing the same things. Am I correct, back to that?
ASP comment?
Go ahead.
Well, I think the real answer is we don't know, because that Carrington event was in the 1880s, and we didn't have modern technological systems at that time, and we're kind of worried about ground currents in the power supply system. But if any ham did have any observations about induced voltages, I'd be grateful to hear about them.
This is K3SAD, net control for tonight's TechNet. I think another factor, such as it is also prevalence of surge protection throughout society these days versus back then as well. Different issues trying to cope with, but nevertheless, I think TVSS and SPDs would probably assist, even though that's not what they're designed to do. And they're kind of all over the place helping out, so that'd be another factor as well. I think conventional wisdom was, this is a pretty big one, but it didn't seem like anybody was... I took a precaution, I unplugged mine. But the internet seemed to be on board with just leaving it all plugged in, So if any other comments on this topic?
ASP again?
Go ahead.
As a solar scientist and ionosphere physicist, I noticed the stuff coming in, and I told a lot of people that I know, don't panic, just prepare. I unplugged my radios from my antennas, I got a little extra cash from the bank, and I made sure my truck was full of fuel. And you just don't need to panic, just be prepared that if some of the technological systems went out for a day or two, that you could survive. That's my advice. W0ASP.
Sounds good to me. Any other comments on this one? This is K3SAD, net control for tonight's TechNet. Any other topics? K3SAD to W1VAN, you still on?
This is W1VAN.
So it seems like last time you checked in, you had made mention of perhaps setting up a repeater. Have you had any progress or thoughts on that?
Fill me in again. Which repeater? I have several.
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. It was some digital format, ham, and I don't remember much beyond that.
Well, a quick rundown. The K0OJ repeater over in Greeley seems to be off the air for some reason again. All the repeaters up on Horsetooth are functioning. The 2DMR, VHF, the UHF, the UHF and VHF fusion are also doing well. They lasted right through the solar storm, no problem. Those both have Wires X connectivity to them, that if you want to participate in any of that, they are open to anybody wanting to use them. LaSalle, the UHF fusion is off the air over there. We have a antenna feed line issue. The VHF DMR on LaSalle is functioning. Nobody has used that machine in a very long time. So use these machines or I'll start taking them down. W1VAN, it's just not worth the hassle if nobody wants to use them. It's not a private system, and I put it out there out of for everybody to use. W1VAN.
This is K3SAD, 3 s 80 and that is appreciated, and that's why I kind of wanted to, I don't want to say, but I wanted to, I don't want to say, but I wanted to, 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 I touch base real quick and see how all that was going. Are there any late check-ins for tonight's TechNet?
This is N0NYY, November 0, November Yankee Yankee, Bart, Mobile, and Evans, and thank you, George, for picking up the net for me tonight.
Not a problem at all. Any other late check-ins for tonight?
K0 Alpha Echo Mike Steve, Fort Collins.
Okay, so late check-ins, I got Kilo Mike 6, Victor Alpha Yankee, N0NYY, K0 AEM. Any other check-ins? Hearing none, this concludes the NCARC TechNet. Net Control would like to thank each station for their participation. We had a total of 22 check-ins tonight. This net will occur again next Monday at the same time on this repeater. This is K3SAD closing the net at 18:32:73, and good night, everyone.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. For more information, visit our website, ncarc.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.